At first it was 27 days. That was the record we were going for, and I thought I could do it, but I wasn't sure. Then we got going, it turned into 21 days. That was different. That was more than just a bike ride. That was bike ride and preparation. I had the bike ride, but no preparation. Too disjointed. You see what it's like being inside my head. I do the writing, I do the blogs, and the bike riding. I never thought about the border post. They kept me waiting for hours at a time. Think about it. I lost a day writing, a day blogging, I lost a day filming, and I lost a day at Bogota Airport. I tried really hard to catch up, do you know, and I nearly did. And I would only be 3 hours behind. I might have even got it. But coming second isn't any use to me. Already got a new plan. It's unbelievable. New idea, new plan. You'll love it. Best journey I've ever done. I've actually gone from here all the way up here, wiggled up South America and Central America and North America up to the top, and then I've gone back all the way again to the very bottom, and then I've gone back all the way to the top again. I've ridden from the bottom of South America to here, Prudhoe Bay, almost as a training run. But now, a new journey was about to start, one that would take me to a limit even I'd never been to before.
It's 4:30 a.m. at Prudhoe Bay Hotel in Prudhoe Bay, Alaska.
And I'm going to be leaving at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
On the 5th of June.
Yes.
So there we are. So that's just to prove that I'm starting off with Bertie here at the Prudhoe Bay Hotel. Thank you. Yeah. So here it is, an inauspicious start at the front of the Prudhoe Bay Hotel, about 7 or 8 minutes past 5 o'clock. So I'm going to start the record right now. 5:30 in the morning on June the 5th. I've just left the Prudhoe Bay Hotel and the sea is still frozen, as you can see. This is the start of the Pan American Double. It's great to get going. After failing to get the one-way record during my Anatomy of an Adventurer ride in 2010, I was determined not only to get it with this renewed attempt, but to turn it into a double transit, down from Alaska to Argentina and then back up again, and in less than 46 days. I forgot about this bit. We've done the first 24 hours of the ride on day one, and I've just done a tad under 900 miles, so we've done really well in actual fact. So I'm very pleased when you consider that half of it's on gravel and really poor surface roads down from Prudhoe. Now I've just crossed into Canada and I've suddenly forgotten about this really bad bit. There's lots of frost heaves, it's destroyed the roads, and it's going to be like this at least for another 50 or 60 miles. It's about 6 degrees centigrade, it's really cold. But there we are, day one, and you know, and it's going as better than can be expected really. Yeah. Well, that's good. 5:17. So I set off at about 5:15, 5:17 from Prudhoe Bay, and I've done 900 miles, which is great. So 900 miles exactly 24 hours after I started. I'm feeling quite pleased with that because earlier the road conditions were fairly poor, and it seems like I've got mostly tarmac now. And yes, it's wet and cold, but it's still very beautiful. You know. Yeah, it's great. Anyway, I'm going to go to my favourite bakery now for a bun and a cup of hot chocolate. The beginning of day 2 in Haynes Junction. It's great. Small pleasures. I am attempting to ride the length of the Americas from Prudhoe Bay to Ushuaia, a city half a world away at the southernmost tip of South America. Then I'll turn around and immediately ride back again. I want to do this as fast as I can. The sea is frozen and outside of the town there is no sound. Like the sea, the wind is still. I am suddenly overwhelmed by the freedom of being alone. There is a responsibility in having to deal with self-governance. Everything is under your control. Every change of gear, every hour on the bike, and with every breath, you feel really, truly alive. But sometimes It's too much. Imagine colours too vibrant, blue so bright it hurts your eyes. The unrelenting throb of the engine pressing to take you faster than you want to go, until, gently restraining, you pull back on the reins. Ice Cut, Gobbler's Knob, Oil Spill Hill, Chicken Run and Beaver Slide, they're all part of the historic legend of the ice road truckers. I'd imagine how riding across frozen lakes might concentrate the mind. The reality had been worse. It had been cold, and the rain had stung my face. The road was slippery, no other traffic, and I'd been alone. Already this Arctic landscape was a memory. The lakes were still, and the unmoving leaves of the tundra I'd not forget. But what had cemented my knowledge of being far away from anywhere was the silence.
Removing Nick from the seat of an R1 and putting him on to a much more suitable adventuring bike, the Super Ténéré, was something that we really wanted to do. So it was a great testament to a bike that's designed to do the distance. Nick's incredible ride case studied the Super Ténéré in the only way it could be case studied. It was the ultimate test of that bike.
I'm riding hard and fast. You feel strong at the start of a project because you don't know what you have to face. I look around. I know exactly what lies ahead. I just prefer not to acknowledge it. If I thought too much about riding the length of the Americas 3 times in succession, I probably wouldn't even attempt it.
Well, my name is Jeremy, and I live out on the Yukon River, and I do a walking trap line. And in the winter and in the summer, I make art with my mom. Do birch bark. I do birch bark. Mom does birch bark necklaces and stuff, and I do bear teeth and cat teeth earrings and chains, keychains, and I also am a carpenter.
What have you sold me now?
I sold you a bear tooth that I got off of a 500-pound black bear down the Ray River. Well, actually, it wasn't at the Ray. It was about 2 miles from here on the Yukon, on the edge of the bank. Me and my mom, we woke up one morning and we had this bear in the camp, and it was a Holland American. I shot the first bear, but it was the mate to this bear. It was a mama bear.
The roads are long and straight, and there is little traffic, so the first portion of this journey is easy. All I have to do is learn once again to adapt to the cold and stay awake through the night, something I've done many times in my career as a long-distance biker.
I think as an endurance bike rider, as an extreme endurance bike rider, one of my gifts is to be able to sleep anywhere really at a moment's notice. I can go to sleep in an instant and I can wake up very quickly, and as long as I want to, I'm bright as a button straight away, and I can exist on 1 or 2 hours a night for days and days and days. So I don't need to ride very fast during the day to get a great mileage up over a 24-hour period. I can sleep standing up, I can sleep on my bike, I can sleep against a fence on the floor, I can sleep in an alien environment, I can sleep during the day, in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter where it is. I think it's just one of the things that makes me tick.
The technique I use to get through my being deprived of sleep isn't a secret. It's just hard work and some kind of desire to want something so badly you'll withstand quite a lot of pain to make it happen. Anybody could do what I do. You just need to want what I want so much you'll not rest until you get it.
A few years ago, one of our reporters went out the road with Nick, and he was amazed about how long Nick could ride for, and then he'd pull over, literally fall asleep on the side of the road with the bike on the side stand while sat on the bike. 10 or 15 minutes later, he'd fire up the bike and ride off the second his eyes opened. And it's almost Nick's way of recharging himself. So I think he has this incredible amount of energy and drive that perhaps nobody else in the world has even. But dangerous? No, I don't think Nick's dangerous.
I've never been dangerous, ever. Never had a near miss on my adventures or come close to a head-on. I believe the more you ride, the better you get. Simple as that.
I've even slept at traffic lights. I come to a set of lights and there we are, and I'll just nod off like that, just for a few seconds, and it's like trickle charging a battery, just a few more seconds into that battery, and when I wake up like that after a few seconds, I feel just a little bit better, a little bit brighter and lighter and ready to go. And if I have a long set of lights or a whole series of traffic lights, then by the time I get to the end of the lights, I'm feeling quite good.
I know some people will be unsure as to why I do my journeys in such an extreme manner, but it's just the way I am. I've been record breaking for 30 years, and the day is approaching when I'm going to have to slow down, and that's good too. But I reckon you do see things a bit differently when you push yourself to a limit, and we've all got limits, so we can all see things in that different way if we want to. I usually feel better after a power nap. I discovered the idea on a motorway in Germany during my fastest man ride years ago. 15 mins max, and you're good for the rest of the night. "900 miles on day 1 through hard gravel and bitterly cold rain. 842 miles on day 2. I am 150 miles down on my best schedule, but already a day up on last year's anatomy run. Had 4 hours sleep in 2 days, and after what bit of sleep I do get, I wake, put my helmet on, and then the darkness set off once again." Record breaking is quite a lonely experience, but when you do meet people, they are quite a little bit different.
Just going for a walk. My daughter dropped me off in Whitehorse, and I'm headed to White Rock at Peace Arch near Vancouver. I'm walking for a little over a month now, and I feel like I'm finally getting into my walk and feel pretty good about it, and meeting lots of people who've got beautiful stories and they're sharing them, and it's kind of nice to share stories, and that's sort of what I'm doing, is sharing stories as I go. What can I do a little bit better? And it usually leads me to my consumption patterns. So I started thinking about the computers I have, or the Red Bull I drink, or how could I do this maybe a little more thoughtfully? And when I ask for other people to think about peace and stuff, I'm really asking myself to think a little bit more about what am I doing?
There's an interesting irony with a journey like this, that of all the great places and fascinating people you see and pass by, you miss most of them. Journeys like this become solitary expeditions. You're a biker, but you're also like a mountaineer living a solitary existence on the face.
I love trains, it's just one of my little things to look forward to, and during the day when not a lot's happened. That's great. Yeah.
I'm in Montana and have to get to my first service point in my friend Tim's place in Salt Lake City. This is one of 2 services the bike will get in the whole double transit, and I'll be honest, I don't think it really needed that. Tim and his team have become real friends.
We're putting on new tires, just kind of giving the bike a check over to make sure we can't see anything obviously wrong with the bike, make sure it's good.
Ooh, look at that. Warm mud.
You know what? I think that you are absolutely the man running these kind of miles every single day, day in, day out. It, to me, is absolutely amazing that a human being can do it.
When I was last here in 2010, I was on a 21-day schedule, but that slipped, and I kind of crashed and burnt somewhere in Chile. It was a good attempt, but not good enough. The R1 was perfectly fine, but I was getting the impression that the Super Ténéré was much better set up for what I intended. But I didn't really know the bike, and the sounds of its final drive was confusing me. What do you think, Dave, was the problem with the final drive, or not?
I actually don't think that there was a problem, Nick. I think it was just there wasn't enough load on it.
What's happening is the noise. There's a little bit of lash in the shaft drive, and I think what the noise that was heard was the way the engine pulses hard and then soft as it's running at an idle. It's the lash that we're hearing in the shaft drive.
What do you think of what you've seen of the Super Ténéré? What do you feel about the bike?
I like it a lot. What a neat motorcycle. I like it a lot, Nick. I think it's going to be a great bike for the record.
Well, I'm not far from the Grand Canyon now, on the way to Phoenix, Tucson, and then near Douglas to go into Mexico tomorrow on, I think, is day 5. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, today's Thursday, so it's 4.5 days so far. So that's very good, because I remember when I attempted it last year in the Anatomy of an Adventurer record attempt, it was about 5.5 to 6 days. So I've been averaging 900 mile days. and that's good, you know. A bit disappointed, wanted to make 1,000, but there's so many other considerations, you know. It's not just riding a bike, it's, well, I don't know, it's dealing with stuff like this. Obviously it's taking photographs from filming it and validating the concept, but I'm feeling good and strong and riding well, safely, not having to go so fast. It's a steady pace, not having any coffee stops, or too many anyway. The other considerations, of course, have been the poor weather in the early stages of the journey, freezing rain and flooding, and the poor road conditions, which were heavily gravelly and corrugated and isolated, you know, in the northern part of Alaska.
The bike feels solid with not a nut out of place. It's truly growing on me. It's becoming a remarkable machine. It's 19 hours and 880 miles since I left Wright's Motorcycles at Salt Lake City. This is a good day, and on such a fast schedule, moving so quickly across America, it really is as I imagined space travel to be. 1 minute I'm at 10,000 feet in the snow, the next moment in a desert.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the configuration of the tyres. Yeah, it's too top heavy, it's making me weave all over the place. Seemed like a good idea. It's also too much pressure on the back wheel really, and too much weight. And if I get into difficulties or I need to weave through traffic like rapidly, i.e. in Mexico, then I need to be able to, you know, zip zap, and I just don't feel, I feel unwieldy, so I'm gonna have to look into it. I think I'll do it now. Now here on my travels, and we meet another wonderful American nutter. Who are you?
My name's Wingnut. Wingnut.
Yeah, you who called you Wingnut? Is that
well, if you know anything about Wingnuts, they go all the way back to the Renaissance era. Wingnuts rub shoulders with the kings and queens, and he'll still eat dinner with the homeless and all the little people. In the world in a loving way.
So much road noise. It's a side of the road existence, this is. I'm in the Chiapas region, which used to be one of the most dangerous regions in Mexico, but it seems to be fine. In fact, I've had nothing but friendliness. It's a bit hectic, Mexico, a bit mad. Coming up to day 9, I'm a half the way of the journey south from Prudhoe to Ushuaia, so 25% of the total journey. And at the moment, I'm on an 18-day schedule, which takes me by surprise. I am riding well, filming less, taking less photographs, and just concentrating on the record-breaking ride.
After leaving Mexico and entering Guatemala, I met up with a new Facebook friend in El Salvador who helped me do the paperwork.
I was checking on the internet looking for information regarding the Super Ténéré, and I ran into the Super Ténéré forum, and over there somebody posted the link to your site regarding the record that you're trying to attempt.
I'm going to call this section of the journey being screwed in Central America, and not in the best possible way either. It's just ridiculous. I mean, because I'm going on this, this is this 90-day rule, which says that you can't re-enter a country with your vehicle within 90 days of having first been there. Well, obviously because I took the clients up the first time, up the Central America, up the Americas from Ushuaia towards Alaska. I'm now going south as the first leg of my record-breaking ride. And it's just creating real problems. I mean, that's $400 in what is effectively a 500 kilometre journey. And this is, just to give you an idea, this is the paperwork. All this paperwork here. You know, it's just ridiculous.
I don't mind being on my own, but just sometimes it gets to me, and I long for someone to talk to. When I have a bad day, I have to deal with it alone, and on a good day, there was no one to share it with. A bit up the way, I enter Ecuador and cross a place I've been to many times. A friend of mine owns this place, of what is a very special place indeed, and I had a few minutes to take a look.
I don't know exactly what day I'm on, or exactly how many miles I've done, but I know where I am. I'm on the equator, again.
I don't think anybody else, to my knowledge anyway, has ridden the Super Ténéré as far and as hard as Nick.
I think Nick's testing of bikes is pretty extreme.
Because I think that bike did something like 50-odd thousand miles.
And any bike that can stand up to his trips is its endurance, its strength speaks for itself.
Nick has probably done the most rigorous and extended testing of the Super Ténéré.
You know, the feedback that Nick would be able to give a company like Yamaha on the Super Ténéré is probably unprecedented.
All I know is that we have got our best coverage out of that bike through Nick.
Their test riders certainly couldn't put that bike through the stresses that Nick puts that bike through.
I remember a religious text of Sikhism I once read in India. It was about our beautiful houses and palaces, our solidly built things that we desire, our saddled horses and elephants, and how we go along with these. But none of them can be taken with us, and like fools we bother with them until the end, to this point of exhaustion. It could be a metaphor for our fancy shiny bikes, and our hundreds of thousands of countless, perhaps pointless actions. Are they really all for nothing? Because of the vast distances being covered daily, I would cross a country every few hours in Central America, and further south, the harsh conditions of the driest desert in the world would be replaced by the cold and the snow of the Andes. In parts of the Atacama desert, in hundreds of thousands of years, rain had never fallen. A day later, at the top of the high mountains, there were places that had never not been covered by snow. The next day, I ride over the Andes, down Highway 5 to Los Vilos, La Ligua, San Felipe. Los Andes and Highway 60 takes me to the frontier with Argentina, after which I ride on Highway 7. The descent to Espalata with its plunging vertical surfaces and striking mountain verdancy must be one of the most mesmerizingly beautiful sights in the world. Until you look at a globe, you don't realise how long this journey is. It starts at 70 degrees north, a bit lower than the North Pole, and continues for over 14,500 miles down to over 54 degrees south, passing through Mexico, Central America and the length of the South American continent before finally reaching Ushuaia, the southernmost city in the world.
La idea es bajar el centro de gravedad parado en el asiento para que el peso esté sobre los pedalines y suave, apretar las rodillas contra el tanque y suave, slow, bien suave, sin acelerar bruscamente y sin frenar bruscamente.
Well, I'm just about to leave. That was Pablo, who's giving me some advice about going over the Pass de Garibaldi, and I'm a bit nervous about it, but I mean, with these snow tyres apparently they make a big difference, so fingers crossed. It is snowing, and he said it'll be good up to 10 centimetres of snow. Well, that'd be a good test for the Super Ténéré. Anyway, we started from Ushuaia. This is day one. It's about midday. I'll get the official start from the police control further up on the outskirts of Ushuaia, and then we're going for the record. This is the start again. I've had enough practice starts and enough, you know, training to get. I should bloody well get it now, hopefully. Anyway. Well, here I am starting from the frontier post in Ushuaia. The police ladies are going to completely authenticate it. I think it's about 2 o'clock. Well, they'll tell me exactly what it is. There you can see behind me is the gateway leaving Ushuaia. And here I am. Here's the bike. That's it. There we are. That's it. So there we are. You're signing this, so that's it. Your signatura. Sí, sí, bueno. Gracias.
Soy Laura, conocí a Nick el día 28 cuando hizo ingreso a Ushuaia, ahora se está yendo nuevamente hacia Alaska. Es el día 29, son las... ¿Hora?
1:05.
Las 13:05 horas y bueno, buen viaje.
In the few days it took me to ride south from the Pampas to Ushuaia and then back north towards Patagonia, winter had truly set in. 6 inches of snow had fallen on the high ground and the temperature was below freezing. My studded tyres were gripping brilliantly, and what took me 5 hours to cover the previous night had now taken only 2.
Well, the conditions here in Tierra Fuego are, you know, as you would expect in midwinter. I'm heading towards the Pass de Garibaldi. It will get a bit worse actually than what you see here, but they're, you know, reasonably impressively bad. Although I've seen worse back in England, really. But the bike's holding incredibly well, and the snow tyres I've put on are absolutely extraordinary. They're sticking to the snow like glue. I've never come across this before. But Moto Pablo was right. He's obviously hugely experienced. He's the 5th best motocrosser in Argentina. And, you know, he said, yeah, they'd be great. And they are proving to be fabulous. 26 pounds in the front, 32 in the rear. And they've got studs all over. And I'm just not sliding at all. I'm not saying I wouldn't have been able to do this without them. I'm sure I could, but it's going to save me 4 or 5 hours, which is, you know, kind of important, because I'm now going to go for an 18-day record if I possibly can, or stick to that for as long as I possibly can.
My time forecast was to prove hopelessly optimistic. 21 days south wasn't a bad ride, but it would be very difficult to immediately repeat it.
And this is the Pass de Garibaldi. I had a big problem in 1996 when I went down, tried to do the length of the Americas on my Triumph, and I fell off at the Pass de Garibaldi just at this very spot and broke my ankle. Eventually I made it to Ushuaia, and the next day I started and I rode the full length of the Americas with my broken ankle. I did it in about 30 days, but I didn't register it as a record because I didn't think it was worth it. Especially when you consider the record now is 21 days and likely to come down further. So it's got great memories for me, so I just had to stop and have a look and remind myself what it was like all those years ago in 1996. That was the beginning really of my record-breaking journeys. There's sheet ice all over the road. I'm forced to ride on the hard shoulder, which is on the slope. I can hardly stand up. It's sheet ice, it's outrageous. I've never come across this before.
It had been cool and dry on the way down, but back over the Patagonian plateau, the road surface is now treacherous. One fall, and I'd have to maybe ride with a broken arm. When you spend so much time alone, it's odd how unreal everything starts to feel. There are times when what I do feels like a dream. And after 300 miles, the ice begins to melt, and I cross the Pampas once again to start the ride across the Andes.
I'm at the top of the pass going over from Mendoza in Argentina into Chile. I think it's a pass to the Libertadores, and it's minus 10 degrees. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm just about to go through the frontier. I'm on day 5, heading north. I'll try and make the length of Chile in the next 48 hours.
The thing that makes Nick stand out is the obvious endurance angle, his sheer relentlessness. It's almost painful to read sometimes and to think what he's enduring and what he's putting his bike through as well as himself.
I think if I had to start all over again, I don't think I could. But as this life is all I've ever known, I don't know any better, and I just kind of think, well, just get on with it. Better not dwell on some things, just deal with it and move on.
You know, it's cold, it's freezing cold, and you might have been up all night, and you've been away from home for weeks if not months, and it's hard, and sometimes it really hurts. And yet, the wonderful thing about motorbiking is that it's just brilliant.
It is northbound day 5, and the cold is still intense. Day by day I claw my way northward. Painstakingly slowly I cross the Andes in the snow. My tyres have tread and studs enough to facilitate a trouble-free passage, and the bike is performing really well in the cold. In fact, it's thanks to the dual-purpose capability of the bike that allows me to ride in such an enchanting landscape in what must be the harshest of conditions. The suit keeps me snug and warm as I descend the other side, where the air there starts to lose its chill and the sun begins to shine. I'm now in Chile, heading towards the desert, and when I get into the Atacama, I need only take off the outer jacket to acclimatise from temperatures of minus 10 degrees centigrade to nearly plus 40 in the space of a day. Northbound day 6 is Monday the 4th of July, and I ride from La Serena to Victoria, covering a distance of 1,335 kilometres. A ferocious wind picks up outside Aqua Verde, 160 kilometres south of Antofagasta, and the whole world rattles.
It's a bit thick keeping me snow tyres on when I'm about to enter the Atacama desert, so I've found a little place in the outskirts of Copiapo just to take them off. And they're not used to motorbikes before, but they've done a cracking job. It took about half an hour.
It's amazing when you think about it, but by the time I finished the record part of this ride, the double transit, a distance of 29,500 miles in, say, 46 days, all I've really had to do with the bike is change its tyres, which incidentally never punctured once and gave me 8,000 mile mileages on the rear. But what took me even more by surprise is that after riding the length of the Americas just to get to the start line, and then having to ride home when it's all finished, the bike will have done 51,000 miles. Is it possible it can do this without breaking down? I eat once a day and always at street stalls on the side of the road. My favourite place in Peru is El Dorado on the coast and in the south. The bloke there serves up the hottest food, and that really keeps body and mind in a nice place when you know you've got to ride non-stop for the next 2 days to get through Nazca and then Lima and then to the beaches in the far north. As a concept, any record-breaking journey begs the question, is it possible? When I reached Prudhoe Bay for the first time and looked south, it seemed an enormous task. Looking north from Ushuaia, the second time, doubly so. Did I really believe such a record could be achieved in such a time, alone? At the start of the journey, so huge did it feel in my mind that it didn't seem real at all. It felt like fiction, and each day it was my job to transform a fictional ideal into a reality.
After 30 years of adventuring, for me it's not just the time or the record or the speed or that sort of thing. It's just to do with the perfection of the project. I like to eliminate these flaws, and I like to create a project which is almost perfect or perfect. I think I ought to be able to do it by now. And I found in this project, which must sound nitpicking really, because I'm here and I'll be on a 44, 45, 46 day record breaking schedule to have ridden, you know, up and down the Americas in a way that no one has before. And I ought to be able to respect that. And it's not respectful to the project or to me not to respect it, if you know what I mean. But it's very difficult because that's not what is absolutely meaningful to me. It's the way a project is conducted, with its integrity of course, but it has an integrity, like I say, in planning and performance, which if I don't get right, I feel as if I've let the project down and I've let myself down, and also the people who are watching the project. If certain parts of the project had been better, then the overall effect would have been compounded in such a nicer way.
All day and night I rode the motorways across Mexico. When my friend Jim was kidnapped by bandits north of Acapulco a few weeks before this journey started, on the first trip north, I vowed never to ride at night again. I broke that promise daily.
Before he went, Nick expressed, for the first time that I'd heard him, concerns about going through Mexico, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that turned out to be quite prophetic.
That's Jim. He's my friend. I'd do anything for a friend. I was gutted when I heard what happened to him. He was very serious. He was lucky to get away alive. You don't meet many blokes like him, many friends either. Had to go and get him.
I shot through Mexico in 3 days, kept my head down, rode through the night, and filmed very little. And when I arrived at my hotel in the north on the way to the US border, I heaved a huge sigh of relief.
Well, I've made it to Matehuala, which is a border town in northern Mexico near Saltillo and El Saltillo, and not far from Monterrey, Nuevo Laredo. And everyone's saying, I mean everyone outside of Mexico says don't use the Nuevo Laredo and the Monterrey border crossing, you know, it's too dangerous. And everyone here is saying it's no problem. Obviously not using it at night, but you know, do it during the day. And the advantage of doing it tomorrow is that I'll definitely get into the States, so I can definitely ride at night in the States, and then tomorrow night I can ride through the night. Now, if I go the other way, which is up to Chihuahua and Reentering into Douglas, I just might not be able to cross the border in time, in which case I'm stuck in Mexico for another night, and I won't be able to ride through the night, so I gain a night. And I could do with a bit of good luck, so I think I'll go for it. Yeah.
I am now in the most dangerous part of Mexico. Over 40,000 people have been killed in drug-related violence since 2006, half of them in the area where I am presently riding. And in nearby Ciudad Juarez, 116,000 homes have been abandoned due to these warring factions.
I know where we are. I'm on the 277. I've just gone past Eagle Pass on the way to Del Rio, which is in the southern state of Texas, and it's a relatively small road. Well, I might go on the 277 north to Sonora, which gets me on the I-10, and then I can head west and go west on the I-10 past El Paso, Tucson, and you know, heading towards Phoenix, and at some point I'll go on the 89 and then get on the I-15, you know, and head towards Salt Lake City. I've done 600 miles today and I've got another 600 miles to go, and that will get me to Salt Lake City hopefully by about midday tomorrow. So it's going very well actually, because I've got 5 days to cover the next 5,000 miles to get from more or less here to Prudhoe Bay, and that will keep me on a 23 and a bit day schedule going north.
It's fantastic to be in America. If I could be overwhelmed by my emotions, I would. Shame, I don't have that propensity, but I do need my mates, and when I arrive at Salt Lake City, once again, I'm exhausted, but it's good to see my pals.
And this is Tim. Look, here we are. I'm a bit tired.
Hello.
Tim. This is Tim. He's my friend Tim in Salt Lake City at Wright's Motorcycles, and they've looked after me there and back on so many other journeys. They've looked after me. They've kept this project going. Thank you, Tim.
You know what, Nick? We're so happy that we can be a part of this. You make our day when you show up down here. You only have less than 100 hours to go.
Yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yes, it's been a very long journey. And you've done quite well. Change the oil in the shaft and get you to Alaska. Get you to Prudhoe Bay.
I had an oil-in change here. So, do you think that was the reason?
I don't know. I kind of wiped it off so we can't really see, but it was kind of clean right here, so it may be leaking from this seal again. But I kind of cleaned it up. I probably shouldn't have, but you know, in preparation of putting the tire back on, I want everything to be clean and ready to go.
So what does he look like? What's Nick look like? Awful.
Yeah, no, he actually looks a lot better than I thought he was gonna look. I thought he was gonna be a lot more tired.
Something is happening to me, and it's both good and bad. I'm beginning to resist any sense of importance that this journey might have. The speed and deep focus of the project has sidelined much else about the adventure, which is interesting, but remains outside the remit of this particular run.
Yeah, I mean, at MCN we've been writing about Nick since the very beginning, and I think part of it is that most of our readers dream about doing a big trip like the ones that Nick does so often, but often won't because daily life gets in the way of that. So it's, for our readers, it's really important that through somebody like Nick they can live out their dreams and live out their fantasies for riding, and it might just make them go that little bit further on holiday or that little bit further and ride out to the coast at the weekend on roads they've perhaps never seen before. And Nick's certainly a big inspiration to our readers.
Our readers do enjoy reading about Nick. He's a genuine celebrity in an area that doesn't have that many celebrities. We have Valentino Rossi and some racers, and we have some B and C list celebrities. But it's people like Nick who are the genuine celebrities, especially when they're as mad as he is.
I'm not far away from the Brooks Range and that charismatic strip of dirt known as the Atacama Pass. Soon I will ride over it and drop down the other side into bright sunshine, and then mist, and then cold, and then to Dead Horse and slightly beyond, Prudhoe Bay. There's nothing heroic about this, only a sense of being elevated. Nothing boastful, just a view that calculation alone never made a hero. On and on I ride, like an antelope out of control. Record breaking requires one to harness both pain and pleasure in order to forge forward. In that sense, you are in control of your need to be out of control. In fact, so harmonious is the pain and the pleasure that such a journey affords. Even though the balance of the adventure is on a tightrope, it's still a balance. They say you can't discover new oceans unless you lose sight of the shore, and in my book, life is a great adventure, or it's nothing. There's something understandable about riding along the Americas once, but to do it again and then again requires a different kind of understanding. But as I come to the top of the world, once more, it seems to me that life is very much an uncharted territory, which reveals its story one moment at a time. And so it is with me. To be continued.
I think the fact that Nick tried to do that ride once, beat the record, and didn't quite get there, and then quickly just sort of pulled himself together and went back and did it again, just shows what an inspiration Nick is, and how dedicated he is to just sometimes even just trying to prove to himself before anyone else what a great motorcycle ambassador he is.
You know, everyone who reads Bike Magazine knows how they feel after 2 or 3 hours in the saddle. And they go home to a nice warm bath, but Nick is still out there, still riding.
Nick's always pushed himself and pushed where he wants to go with things, and for him pretty much there is no limit, so I think doing a ride like that really took it out of him, but ultimately was probably the most rewarding thing he's done.
What an impressive thing to do, to ride up and down and up the Americas on a motorcycle without any support whatsoever is quite fantastic. And the fact that the bike performed faultlessly is obviously, we're very pleased about that.
Ich bin eigentlich neidisch, dass du solche Reisen machen kannst. Würde ich auch gerne machen in viele Situationen. Mein Kollege Herbert kann ja ein bisschen mehr machen, weil er andere Verantwortungen hat. Aber du machst solche schöne Reisen, hast so viele gute Begegnungen mit anderen Menschen, mit Kulturen. Traumhaft. Wenn ich das auch wieder machen kann, bin ich glücklich.
Do I envy Nick in terms of what he's done in his and has achieved, and you know the trips he's been on? I would say absolutely not. I think for me to have the opportunity to ride with Nick for sort of a week, 2 weeks, or potentially for a few months would be absolutely fantastic. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but to do day in day out what Nick does on his challenges, absolutely not. I mean, on the journeys I've done, on some of the long straight roads you're on, having to deal with the tiredness and the boredom, just on a relatively small trip, it's hard work. So no, I don't envy Nick at all. I think what he does is absolutely a one-off, unique, and the guy deserves every bit of praise and credit that he deserves and gets.
I'm back home now. Does a journey like this change you? I suppose it does really, but over the years, the big changes have already happened. You're now looking for small, finer refinements, even refinements you're not even aware about. So how was the bike? Well, how can you be critical of a bike that's done 51,000 miles without a single breakdown? I mean, it's sort of all I have to say, really. So we went with Bike Magazine and my son Willow to Alf England's dealership in the Midlands to look at the engine, to pull it apart, to disassemble it, to see what it looked like, to see whether there's any wear and tear after such a phenomenal journey. This is what we found.
Why do you think technically it's in such good shape?
Frankly, I don't know. It's very well designed, very good materials. If I'd have took a new one apart and it looked like that, I wouldn't have been surprised. It looks like it's been nowhere. Not twice around the world.
Does that surprise you?
It does. You expect to see some wear marks on things, and that would be perfectly acceptable, but there's nothing. Could have stayed together for 10 times as long and it wouldn't give you any problems.
Yeah, we noticed maybe 3-4 years ago that there was an improvement in the quality and the finish with Yamaha. Not that it was bad anyway, but you could sense that they were really trying hard. Some of the R1s, bikes like the MT-01, real improvement, real good finish, and that's evident now with this bike. And with everything from chassis through the engine, and when you pull it apart, you see not even witness marks on some of the parts where you'd expect wear. It's remarkable.
PR concept for the actual journey and then pulling the bike apart? How's that been for you?
This has been a fantastic experience for everybody involved. At the end of the day, this is real life motorcycling in a real world situation, and this is what we want to see the vehicles put through. It's very easy to have a brand new vehicle only covering a couple of thousand miles in a few years and saying that that bike's been durable. This is real world experience on a fantastic motorcycle, and this is what we want to see more of. Let's take more bikes to pieces, let's have a look at what's inside them. Certainly let's see if they're durable, and I think with the Yamaha product we've definitely got that particular durability and refinement sorted.
When we took the side fairing off the bike, removed it, and there's a small hole here at the sort of the headstock of the frame, and in there we noticed something sort of sat in there, and got the long nose pliers and pulled it out, and possibly the strangest thing we've ever found in the front of a motorcycle, which there was actually a dead bat that had come all the way from South America.
Well, we did a survey about in the magazine the other day, and we asked readers to tick certain boxes. Do you enjoy road tests? Do you enjoy this? And we said, do you enjoy reading about Nick Sanders? And the answer was overwhelmingly no. In fact, some research we did recently suggests that we're actually losing a lot of readers every time we put Nick anywhere near the magazine. So going forward from here, there'll be no more Nick Sanders at any point in bike.